adventurers! Welcome to D&D Beyond Basics. My name is CJ Hoshavar, and today we'll be discussing your character sheet. By the end of this video, you should be able to interpret all of the various items on your character sheet, as well as making any needed rolls directly in the D&D Beyond platform. Now, you don't have to roll in the platform itself, but it can make it easy and save some time, especially for beginning players. If you have any questions as I move through this content, I encourage you to write them down. Myself or any good dungeon master will have a session 0 to answer any questions that you have, as well as manage any of those anxieties you might have about a new game. We're going to start all the way up here in my top left-hand corner. This will contain your character information, your name, your race, your class, any picture you've uploaded, along with your character level. If you ever need to make changes to these items, click on Manage. You can adjust your name, change your sheet appearance to add things like photos, manage your character and levels, or any character settings. To close the pop-out menu, click anywhere else on the screen and it will reduce. Next up, we have your checks. Strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma are the 6 main statistics in D&D. If your DM asks you to roll, let's say, a dexterity check, you'll click on the +4. It will automatically roll your d20 or your 20-sided dice and add your modifier. My dexterity check came out to a 16. I'm going to take a moment to describe the different skills in the sense of tomatoes. Strength is your ability to crush a tomato. Ooh, I did really well. That tomato's toast. Dexterity is your ability to juggle those tomatoes. Constitution is your ability to eat a bad tomato. Intelligence is knowing a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put tomato in a fruit salad. And finally, charisma is the ability to sell a tomato-based fruit salad. Looking at you, bards. Right next to that, you'll see your proficiency bonus. This character has a +3. We're not going to spend too much time on proficiency bonuses in this video. They're auto-added to all of your other stats. Then you'll have your walking speed. This is how far your character can move in a round of combat. This particular character has a 25-foot walking speed, meaning they'll be able to move 25 feet or 5 squares on a standard D&D map. Below that, you'll have your initiative modifier. When starting combat, everybody rolls initiative to see what turn everybody goes in, including the baddies. To roll initiative, same as our checks, click on the +5, it'll roll your d20, and add your 5-point modifier. My initiative here is 15. Not the best, but it could be worse. Lastly, up at the top here, you'll have your armor class. Your armor class is how hard a bad guy must roll to hit you. A 14 and below would be a miss. A 15 and above would be hit, and you would potentially take some damage. Speaking of hit points, your hit points are controlled in this module up in the top right-hand corner. Let's say that hit me and I took 10 damage. I would type in 10 and click on the damage to reduce my hit points by 10. If I'm healed, I can type in 10 and heal to return those hit points to my total. Last note on hit points. You may occasionally be awarded something called temporary hit points. These are hit points that do add to your max, but they must be used first. To add temporary hit points, click on your hit point tile, plug in your temporary hit points. I'm going to give myself 10, and then click outside of the cell to add the temporary hit points. If you then take 12 points of damage, it will consume your 10 temporary hit points first, and then take the remainder away from your current points. Below that, you'll see any defenses, resistances, immunities, or vulnerabilities that your character has, along with any active conditions, like grappled. Moving over to our saving throws. Saving throws are commonly used when you're being attacked. You may have a spell thrown at you and have to do a dexterity saving throw. Same as we've done. Click on your +7. Ooh, natural 1, that's a big old bummer. But with my +7, that's an 8 on my dexterity saving throw. Below that, you'll have your passive senses. Don't spend too long stressing about these. Your DM may occasionally ask, what's your passive perception? Or what's your passive investigation? This can help the Dungeon Master determine, do you even need to make a roll in this scenario? Or did you notice when something was happening in the background? 17 passive perception, pretty high. This player is pretty observant. Below your senses, you'll have your proficiencies. In other words, what is your character good at? This particular character can sport light armor, meaning if I use any medium or heavy armor, I could potentially take a nerf, or I could potentially have a negative item happen to me. As an armor example, if I were wearing heavy armor as this character, it would impact my walking speed and probably my deception. See what weapons you are proficient with. These are the weapons that your character class can use. You'll also see any tool proficiencies. If you're a rogue, you might see something like thief tools here, and any languages that you can speak. If you need to adjust any of these, click on Manage, and you can add new proficiencies. Let's go ahead and add a new language to this character. I'm going to say they can also speak Dwarvish. Once I'm done, I click outside the cell, and it has added Dwarvish to my languages that I understand. Next up, in our basics, we have our skills. Oftentimes in Dungeons & Dragons, when you start to narrate some roleplay, you'll tell your Dungeon Master what you're doing. I want to approach this dog on the side of the street and try to pet them. In those scenarios, your Dungeon Master will often have you make a skill check. In our example, I would roll for animal handling. Click on the +4 to roll the dice. I got a 9, +4, that's a 13. In this particular example, I'm going to say, you succeeded, you were able to go and love on the pupper. Next up, we have your actions, spells, and inventory. That's all going to live in this box here. This box becomes especially helpful when you're in combat. You can not only roll attacks, but you can also keep track of spells and inventory items. Let's jump into it. We're gonna fast forward on our game. We've made it to combat, and it's your turn to play. You've decided to make an attack with your short sword. Range will be how close does the bad guy need to be, or other player character, depending on your campaign, in order for you to reach them. The short sword has a 5-foot reach. I have to be in a square next to a character in order to attack them. Some longer distance weapons will have a 2-part range. The first number in bold is your flat roll range. If I'm attacking somebody with this dagger, they only have to be within 20 feet of me. But you'll also have what I refer to as a disadvantage range. 60 feet. If I were to throw this dagger 60 feet, I roll with disadvantage because it's the long range for that particular weapon. We're going to stick with our short sword for now. To attack, I'm rolling the same d20. This time, I get a +7 from this weapon. So I'll click on the +7 to make my roll. 7 plus 12 is a 19. If a 19 is below the armor class of the bad guy I'm trying to hit, well, no dice. I didn't hit that guy. But if his armor class is 19 or below, then I can go ahead and roll damage. In this case, I'm rolling 1d6 plus 4. Same as we've seen rolling all of our d20s. Clicking on the damage will roll my attack damage for me. I rolled a 3 plus 4 gives me a 7 damage. That bad guy would remove 7 damage from his current hit points. Scroll down on the screen, you'll also see any additional items you may be able to use. Since this character is an Aarakocra, I have talons. That counts as an unarmed strike. Or you can always do a standard one-arm strike. This is a punch, kick, headbutt, or use similar forceful blow to deal bludgeoning damage equal to 1 plus my strength modifier. In my character's case, that would be a 2. Strength is +1, 1 for the unarmed strike, 2 total. You'll see any bonus actions you can do in combat. For this particular character, they're a bard, so they can give out what's called bardic inspiration. Inspiration is just an extra die that you can roll to one ability check, attack roll, or saving throw. You can add it after you've rolled, but you cannot add it after your DM has narrated the result. To grant inspiration, you'll click on the inspiration tile, and if you're granted inspiration, you'll click it all the way up at the top of your character sheet to indicate you have active inspiration. Once you've used it, click on inspiration again to remove it. You'll also see any reactions that you can do. If a bad guy gets into your realm of attack as he's trying to run away from another player character, you can use these items as a reaction once per round. These can be divided into just attacks, actions, bonus actions, reactions, other, which is just your any other items, or limited use, like our inspiration. These items here are filters. They help you see a specific piece of your actions. Spells. If you're a caster character, my wizards, my druids, my bards, any other character that can cast spells, you have 2 types of spells. The first are your cantrips. Your cantrips do take an action, but they don't cost any spell slots, or the limited number of spells that you can do in between battles. If I wanted to cast Mage Hand, for example, I would just use my Mage Hand to do whatever interaction I need to do with it. If you ever have a question on a spell, click on the title. It will stat sheet for that spell. For anybody who has Mage Hand, this is a really fun one for roleplay, but it can also be super handy in battle. If any of these cantrips have damage, like Vicious Mockery, for example, you can also use these to roll. I rolled a 2 plus a 3 to give me a total of 5 damage. Second kind of spell you can potentially cast are spells that use a spell slot. Same idea. I can click on the spell itself to open it and read all of the information, and to cast it at a higher level if I'd like to. Your player level will determine the number of spell slots that you have, divided into first, second, third, and so on. You typically have way fewer, say, third level slots than you do first level slots. To cast a spell, click on the item first and make sure you're casting it at the right level. If I wanted to cast Animal Friendship at level 2, for example, I can increase in here, and it will give me one additional target. I can then scroll down to my second level and click Cast, and it will put items into one of my spell slots. If your spell has damage, click on the damage indicator, and it will roll your dice and give you a total here. I just cured 9 hit points on somebody's wounds. Our last big item to dive into today is your inventory. Your inventory includes everything that your character has on them. This can be equipment, like armor, weapons, anything else, or it can be additional items your character might have with you. Your bedroll, your costume, your disguise kit. At the very bottom, you'll see any attuned items and any items that require attunement. If you have attuned an item, click in the box and it will show it to you under your attuned items. Now, I can use my short sword of wounding. It has been attuned. That just means I'm able to use it effectively. In your inventory, before you start any game, I do want to make sure that these items have been equipped. For example, I only have a 14 armor class without my leather armor equipped. As soon as I put it on, it bumps my AC up, and I now have a 15 armor class. Same with my weapons. If I want to be able to use my short sword of wounding, and let's say a dagger, I have to make sure that they're checked in order to use them. I do recommend checking this before every play session. You never know when your friendly DM might have dropped some fun new items into your inventory. I will briefly these last 4 items, but unlike everything we've seen so far, they're not critical to play. Features and traits will show you all of the different features and anything that you can do based on your class. Most of these will already have worked out on your character sheet. Description is there for flavor. It has your alignment, along with any other appearance, ideals, family information, anything else you'd like to add here to give your character a little bit more oomph. Notes are exactly what they sound like. You can add notes at any time by clicking into the item and then adding the note. Once you're done, click Save, and it will add it to your notes area. And last is extras. I'll be real, I've never used extras in a campaign scenario. But if you will, you'll first need to manage your extras and then add any other extras on. Let's say a pet. We're going to give this character an adult black dragon. Once you're finished, that pet will be added to your character sheet along with any information you might need. This particular dragon has an AC of 19, 195 hit points, and 80 feet of flying speed. If you need to know more about your dragon, click on the sheet and it will open up all of their extra information. If you're a player at my table, no, you cannot have a dragon as a pet. I hope this has helped introduce you to our D&D Beyond player sheet. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, please write them down and take them to either myself or your dungeon master for your next one-shot or campaign. Any good dungeon master will talk out any questions or concerns that you ever have. Lastly, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and y'all have a great day. Bye, guys.